Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling with Rosenberg. And as you can tell, my guest is, in my opinion, arguably the greatest female worker in the history of wrestling and just one of the best.
In the history? Wow.
She's up there. Gail Kim.
Thanks for having me. We finally got to do this because it's been 2 years, like you said. Right?
Yeah, we met a couple years ago at one of the TNA Base Brawl.
Yeah, Brooklyn Base Brawl.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Yeah, and we worked.
I cut a heel promo on you.
Yeah. It was really fun.
That was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
That was one of the cooler things I've gotten to do in wrestling. So that was really neat. But as I told you at the time, I've always thought you were an amazing worker.
Thanks.
And I feel like I haven't heard enough from you.
Right.
And so since you're in town, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity. So why don't we start off, since this just happened, I think it's just a good starting point. Talk a little bit about Mae Young.
Mae Young, yeah.
And personal interactions with her, but then also just her career.
Right. Well, I had a lot of interactions with her in WWE because she did so many things until now. Till now, yeah. I mean, she is one hardcore bitch, you know?
Say it! That's fine.
Hardcore bitch. She is amazing. Toughest woman, probably, her and Moolah, that I've come across in this business. I mean, she was always willing. She would sit in the locker room all day because she was older, and you would never guess it. It's kind of like watching people say when they see Kurt Angle walk backstage, she looks a little broken down in a way. And you watch these wrestlers backstage, but then when they're out there, it's like they're machines. You would never even guess they have a sore bone in their body. And
so she'd be backstage resting.
She'd just sit there all day in the locker room, and whoever would be taking care of her, Jillian was so kind, and she'd always walk her around. And then when we came out there, she was willing to do anything. And that's what I want to be. I'm still willing to do anything, but at that age, you got to give them props.
Half of wrestling seems to be the stories and the folklore of professional wrestling is like, half of it is that you don't know what part is real and what part is added to it, right? Like, it's kind of constantly added to. So she's one of those people who the stories about her are awesome. Like, like Bubba's story of the Bubba bomb through the table. Yeah. And it's like her saying, no, do it harder.
Yeah.
Does that stuff seem real to you? Was she really always wanted to be as hard as possible?
Yes, definitely. She never even cared. And everybody else was kind of always looking to take care of her, and she didn't need that. At all. I've heard some stories about, she'd do the Bronco Buster, and as a joke, she'd put tuna.
No.
I've heard that story. I don't know what is true or what's not, but that's great. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I was really saddened when she passed. It's like she was so old and she had such a great run, but I was still so sad about it.
You don't have to be sad because, like you said, she had a great run, a very full life. She accomplished so much. We have to celebrate that.
Would she take time to give you guys advice or talk to you any specifically? Do you think she was she following along with the product, knew who you were when she saw you, or she wasn't that involved? She was just happy to do her part when she was there?
That's pretty much the impression that I got because I only got to work with her later on. And so, but I did work one indie show with her and Moolah, and they were very giving and here, take the mic. And, they really wanted to involve the women. And I thought that was great. There were great role models and, there's someone to look up to.
So speaking of bodies breaking down, how does your body feel these days? You've taken a lot. I don't know if I can think of another female wrestler of your era that's taken the bumps that you have. So how do you feel day to day?
I feel today, I feel a little sore. I'm not going to lie.
Why? Why today?
A little shoulder, knees. Not too bad. Considering the fact that I've been wrestling this long, I feel really great. And it's just honestly from day to day. I feel generally amazing. Depends on how physical I've been in the last month, to be honest. Our schedule's been pretty consistent in the last month, so that's the only reason why I'm sore, but...
Just from working a good amount of shows.
Yeah, and I work out every day. So, I'm very crazy neurotic about that. So.
How much, what do you do when you work out every day?
I prefer to weight lift. So if I have only half an hour in the gym, I'll go and lift weights. But...
Rather than cardio.
Yeah, rather than cardio.
So you have a naturally good metabolism. You don't have to worry about it.
I do, but wrestling helps a lot. And now I'm married to a chef, so the food thing, it's kind of, I used to be really, really strict, and now I'm in moderation because I enjoy eating lots of food. And
when you have a world famous chef husband, you kind of got to try something.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I got a photo shoot, and then we go and do a food and wine event, and you just got to drink a little bit and eat a little bit, and hey, you got to enjoy life, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes down to the important photo shoots, that's when I kind of crack down a little bit. But.
So where does the story start for you and your interest in pro wrestling?
Well, I was a fan as a kid when everybody watched pro wrestling. I mean, everybody, from Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior days, Bret Hart, British.
In Canada?
In Canada.
Where exactly were you born?
Toronto.
Oh, born and raised Toronto.
Yes.
Okay.
And my sister and I would wait for Saturday night's main event and, try to stay awake. And it was so exciting and so real back then, And then I stopped watching when I was, after elementary school. And then I fell out of it and never really watched the whole D-Generation X era. So I missed all the X-rated stuff, right? The good stuff.
The good stuff.
The good
the
stuff.
Attitude Era.
Yeah, the Attitude Era, sorry. And then when I was in college, I started switching the channels, and I got caught up on a storyline. I don't know how it happened, but...
Do you remember what it was or no?
Yeah, it was Stephanie, and when she was doing that whole test Triple H storyline.
Marriage storyline.
Yeah. And I got caught up, and I couldn't miss wrestling every week. And that's when the golden era was around. It was Trish, Jazz, Victoria, and the girls were so strong and athletic. And I thought, hey, there's no Asian girl, I think I can do this. And
how athletic were you at that point?
I was playing sports in high school, everything. I mean, athlete of the year. And
like what sports did you play?
Everything. I mean, including badminton. Okay. I mean, soccer, softball, volleyball, basketball, everything. I played everything.
Were you a cool kid?
I think I fit in, and I kind of hung out. I could go in the cafeteria and I could hang out with the jocks. I could hang out with the gifted kids. I could, everybody.
Do you have an Asian crew also?
No, I did not.
You weren't in the Asian crew?
Is that weird? No.
Were you hated on? Were you hated on by the Asian crew?
No, but I got along with them, but I never really hung out with them.
You were
kind of like jocks, and halfway through the jocks, and they weren't druggies, but I guess they were known as the druggies. But
like more alternative-y kids.
Yes,
okay.
more alternative. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to put that out there. Yeah.
So you're like, all right, I can go for this. So then in college, when you're watching it, do you instantly get serious? Like, I'm going to start going to the gym all the time now.
Oh, well, I left high school and I had played all these sports, and then when I left, I kind of gained a little bit of weight. When I mean a little bit, I literally was like 10 pounds.
Right, just freshman.
Yeah, right. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not used to this, and my body didn't feel right. So I hired a trainer, and then I became obsessive. Like, I would wake up at 4 a.m. and catch the first train into the city, go to the gym and work out for like 2 hours.
Where were you in college at the time?
In University of Toronto.
Which campus?
Downtown campus.
Oh, downtown campus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so I would do that, and then I just kind of learned and made my mistakes and just learned to work out pretty much through then. And then went to school for nutrition, and then I got caught up in wrestling. And then
did you finish school?
No, I took my tuition money and I went to wrestling school.
So whose wrestling school did you go to?
I went to Ron Hutchinson, so where Trish, Edge, Christian, everyone went. Yeah.
So you followed the real Toronto lineage of how you do it.
I did. And, I don't regret anything. I wish I finished school, but I've been wrestling for 14 years now, and,
I think you've been all right.
I'm doing okay.
You've done all right on your own. Then you married a rich, famous chef, so you did all right twice. You're double all right.
Yeah, but you can't depend on a man.
No, you can't.
You can't.
But your money's fine yourself.
Yes.
So how long did that process take of training and then working indies? What was...
Right. I was very lucky, and I met Molly Holly through Jason Sensation, probably a year and a bit after I started training and working the indies. And when I started wrestling, I was so unrealistic. In my mind, I said, I'm going to make it in a year. And I didn't know that was such a short amount of time. And then, but I got my opportunity maybe a year and a half later. And then I got a tryout with WWE that summer, and they had just bought WCW. And I was really lucky. It was just a perfect day. I had a tryout match with Nydia. We had incredible chemistry. Everything just went right that day. And they had just had tryouts with some girls from the West Coast, and they were horrible. So it made us look like $1 million. You know, it was me, Beth Phoenix, and Tracy Brooks. And we all tried out that same day.
Whoa. Beth Phoenix tried out back then?
Yes, she did. And so I was the only one who got signed. And she just kept on pursuing. Tracy went off to TNA like a year later. I had gotten signed, and then Beth moved herself down to OVW, and she just kept plugging away. And she finally got signed like a couple of years later.
Wow. That's crazy, though, because you originally came to WWE. You eventually were on the main roster by, 2003 or 4?
Don't ask me yours. I never remember.
I'll tell you.
I always ask Tracy. I'm like, what year did I start?
2002 was your first run in WWE.
Yeah.
2002 to 2004. And then you eventually get to WWE and win the title in your first match. So, okay, explain how that could even... You talk about unrealistic dreams. Like, what is that? Take me through the process as far as they tell you you're going to be on the roster. Yeah. Take us from there all the way to them telling you, okay, and you're going to win.
Well, okay, let's go back to when I got signed. Johnny sat me down and he said, we don't think you need developmental, because my tryout went so well. And so I was excited. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to move down to Louisville. And anyways, they changed their mind because I don't know what happened, and I was devastated because I had never moved out of Toronto, and I had gone to work indies in Ohio, Michigan. That was the furthest I had gone. So for me, I had been living, I had a house in Canada. I was devastated and scared. And then I went down there and I stayed there and I trained on the road on house shows and
OVW.
Yeah. And I did that for about 6 months, but I probably debuted maybe 5 months later. And they just told me that day, maybe at 3 p.m, okay, you're going to debut tonight and you're winning the title. And Dean Malenko and Fit Finlay and everyone said, oh, yeah, you're winning the title tonight. And I'm so green and I don't know what's going on, walking on eggshells. So when they tell me that, I was just kind of like, oh, yeah, huh. I just laughed. I really didn't know if it was a joke or if it was real.
You thought there was a chance it was a rib at the beginning? Like, this isn't real. I'm not really going to go in and win the title.
I didn't even know what a rib was back then, to be honest. I was so green. Everything was a blur. And I remember them telling me that. And I kind of laughed because I thought it was a joke. And they said, no, it's real. And some of the guys came up and they would, make little jokes. And I was so naive. And I just thought they were just being nice. And they're like, yeah, champ, just making jokes. And I'm so glad I was naive, though, because I don't even want to know what the girls were thinking back then.
Well, think about it. And if you were to reverse the situation now, what would you possibly think about a girl who shows up and in her first match wins the title? Like, that can't, in some ways, that's...
with Taylor Wilde, but I knew her beforehand. And that was TNA. But I think because I went through it, I would be less judgmental.
Right.
And it's really not the wrestler's fault. I mean, it's creative. It's The Office. If I could take it back, well, actually, I wouldn't take that back because it was history, and I'm grateful for that moment. But really, if I could redo it, I would have redone it because you start at the top. The only way you can go, is down. So... I don't know.
Why did they do it? Why? Like, why did they thought that was the way to make your character make a strong impact right away? I mean,
I have no clue, to be honest. All those years in WWE, I never got clear answers from anybody, even if I asked. So when that happened, I knew I was really built up at that time. The day that I had the tryout, I know that Edge had said to Stephanie, because we had mutual friends. He said, oh, she's like the female Rey Mysterio. And, they built me up so much. And I could do all these high-flying things, definitely. But with guys, I trained with guys. And to do them with girls, it's a whole different story. So that's why if I hear about girls coming in to try out to this day, and they say, she works with guys. She does all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I don't care if they work with guys. They're not going to work with guys on TV. You're going to work with girls. So how good are they with girls on TV?
That's super interesting.
That's the key.
And why is it so much easier
With guys?
With guys.
Because they're just generally more skilled. They can base better. They're stronger. You know, they make you look a lot better. I could work with guys and look like $1 million. It's working with girls that shows how good you are.
Now, what if is a really good girl as easy to work with as a good guy, or is it still easier working with a guy just because of the natural strength and size?
I like working with girls, really good girls. There's not many of them, but I like working with girls. Like Beth, I only got to work with her one time on a singles match on TV. And
in your second run on.
Yeah, and it was Superstars. But we heard about it the day before, and we were like, yes, we have 7 minutes, and we acted like it was a pay-per-view match because we never got that chance before. So, I wish we could have worked again.
So why did it ultimately go sour with WWE the first time?
The first time I got fired, and I'm glad I got fired because, I mean, not at that moment. I was devastated at that moment, and I didn't I was really kind of just confused. And I remember getting the phone call, and Johnny said, "Okay, we're gonna have to let you go." And he just wanted to hang up right away, and I thought, wait, I need an explanation. You know, like why is this happening? And that's when the Diva search happened, and they let go of me, Nydia, Jazz, a bunch of other people. That's when they used to fire people in boatloads. And he said, we just want to go in a different direction with the girls. And I said, okay. I mean, and then you got to accept it, right?
Was there anything in your mind that you could think about why it was? Like, what's your weakness? Is there something that you could point out
at that time?
Yeah, at that time.
I think a lot of things.
So you don't look back at that time and think you were particularly good?
No. I mean, when people say, oh, I'm going to Google you and see your work.
Yeah, you've said that to me before. Yeah,
don't watch WWE stuff. That's what I say.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go watch all your early WWE stuff. And you're like, no, you don't have to look at my early WWE stuff.
I'm like, watch TNA stuff. You know, that whole time was just so green, like I said, and so inexperienced and with life in general and being thrown into that company. I mean, I don't understand how Kelly did it at the age of 18. I was 25, and it's a lot to handle. It really is.
What, the work part or like the political part?
The political part. The work part, I had broken my collarbone, and I was out for 5 months. And then when I came back, I felt comfortable, found my groove. I felt like I was getting into things, and then I got fired right after that. So, yeah, it's really, I always tell people, if you're going to work at WWE, you have to be mentally strong. That's probably the hardest part. And it is a very cutthroat, political environment.
Now, seeing as that you were there, though, in 2002, you were around when a lot of amazing people were still there. I mean, obviously continue to be there, but do you have any fond memories early on? I mean, because at that point you were really into wrestling too. Mm-hmm. So it had to be weird. Is it weird when you start walking around the locker room and you're like, oh my God, that's HBK. Oh my God, The Undertaker's here. Oh my, like that.
I will say Undertaker was the one person that I was very intimidated by. And that you're kind of like, whoa, oh, that's Undertaker, But he was so nice, and he helped us out a lot too if we asked. I never found anybody too intimidating besides him.
Austin and Rocky, who were huge that time, were...
Yeah, but they were only kind of on and off at that time. So I didn't get to work with them full time. But every time I've met them and worked with them, they were incredible and very personable. And you know why they're superstars, because they're very charming in person.
What about Benoit?
Benoit I loved. That whole situation obviously is very touchy, but
were you there when it happened?
I had already been fired, but I had worked with him for 2 years and gotten to know him, and I thought it was incredible. It's a very tragic situation that happened, but he had brain damage, and that's the whole thing. When it came out, everybody was talking about steroids and whatever happened, and then later on they did studies on his brain and found out he had brain damage. So,
well, I think when I speak to a lot of people, and this is very common for me, people who love Chris Benoit, and it's almost like they separate him, the person, from the person who committed those acts. and Jim Ross said something to me that was super interesting about how he basically said that he more or less he doesn't support Chris Benoit being in the Hall of Fame because he believes that Chris Benoit would not at this point support him being in the Hall of Fame himself because of what happened.
Right.
Like the sane Chris Benoit would have been like, yeah, you can't put that person in the Hall of Fame. If they're going to make it, everyone will make it all about the wrong things. He doesn't belong. But so in your interactions though was great.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a machine. I mean, talk about being a machine. And I kind of looked at him as, because I would say I'm more known for wrestling than my charisma or character, So I kind of looked up to him because he was so hardcore and just all about the wrestling and tough. And I kind of took a little piece of him with what I mold myself into. I know people might not like that, but his work ethic was incredible. I remember one time we were on the road and he had tricked me and Victoria, and it was
Tomko.
Yeah. I'm thinking Tyson. I don't know why.
He was Tyson Tomko at one point.
Okay, that's why.
I think when he went to WWE, he was Tyson.
Yeah. We had run into them on the road, and they were eating dinner. They joined us, and we had already had a bottle of wine. And they're like, let's go have some shots. And they had tricked us, and they're drinking water all night, and we're drinking vodka. And so the bartender felt bad, and they're like, they're drinking water, just so you know. And I was like, oh, my God. And we felt sick the next day. And they had joined us in the drinking, and then he was in the gym next day, like early in the morning, hardcore. I couldn't do it.
Well, and also, you seem like someone who, like Benoit, seems to enjoy working stiff to a certain degree.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Why do you like working stiff? Why does someone...
It's not stiff. It's snug. That's the way I look. And it's very physical.
Why?
I'm a very physical being. I don't like... Well, first off, I think as a woman, we're always being... challenged, or I want to be as good as the guys. And I know people make fun of me on the roster because they think I take it too seriously sometimes, and I don't care, because I do take it seriously when it comes to the big matches. And I want to be as good as the guys, and I want to steal the show, and I want to prove that us women can be just as entertaining as the guys. And people laugh sometimes, but hey, I've had those moments, and they were worth it to me.
You've without question had those moments. Yeah. You've had a couple in the last year.
Yeah.
With
Taryn.
The stuff with Taryn was amazing.
Yeah. That was probably... my stuff with Kong was so memorable and magical, and that was amazing. But the crowd response that Taryn and I got that night, those are the moments that you work so hard for.
Now, in a situation like that, do you lead her through a match like that? Like, because she doesn't have a ton of experience with that big a microscope.
I didn't have to necessarily lead her through that match when it was happening, but I am the type of person that I like to take control of the match, early in the day, and how I want this match to go, and how to set the tone for that match. I'm controlling.
But she was excited to also work snug.
Oh, definitely.
She was up for it.
Taryn was so up for everything, and that's what I loved about her. It's like, yes, I finally found a girl that's, not afraid to go at the level that I want to go at. And we were both so excited that day, and
now
exceeded our expectations.
Are there ever girls on the roster who you totally get along with personally?
Yeah.
But they know that working with you, you're not going to be that into working with them, and vice versa? No. I think that the most common, comment I might hear from girls is that they make fun of me too. They're like, "Oh, Gail, we're going to have to wrestle now and step it up." And I think they feel like they need to step it up, which is a compliment to me. And you're happy with that?
And I'm excited that I can motivate them to step it up and want to be more physical. And I'll be in the ring sometimes, and I'll literally say, "Hit me harder, harder, harder," and but safe. And I just want it to be physical. And my stepdaughters, they're not wrestling fans, but I'll ask them, So, what was your opinion of the show tonight? What stood out to you as non-wrestling fans? And they'll say, "Oh, well, I'd say the women make it more realistic than anybody else."
And that's
that's awesome. Yeah.
Who in the business right now, TNA, WWE, anywhere, really excites you? I mean, you could men also, but women first.
Women?
Yeah. And I know you don't watch a ton of WWE.
I don't. You know what? I don't watch I watch our show when it's happening, but I'm on the road a lot because of my husband. I love Natty. I haven't seen her wrestle in a long time. I've always wanted to wrestle with her because I loved her physicality as well, and of course she's so talented. I love Fox. I'm biased to her because she's one of my best friends, and I've always felt like she had the potential.
She's good.
She's good, and I wish her real life personality would come out on TV. Be that.
Why? What's her real life personality like?
She's really happy, but then also she can just all of a sudden turn and be so feisty. She's amazing. I love her. She's like my sister. And I think
interesting
her
that
potential in the ring.
I think she's great in the ring.
We've had so many great matches, and
she's one of those people that you feel like is going to be around. Like they use her as a hand that they need around, but just doesn't ever anymore. At one moment they were giving her a little bit, and then it just doesn't seem
I'll tell
like.
you why.
Okay.
It's because that company, you have to be a certain personality. Like we talked about the politics and everything, and she's just not like that, and I think she's just happy to be there, and she has great talent, but I think you need to do a little bit more in that company than just have talent. And you can win over the fans and succeed in that way, but there's so many other factors involved there that I'm not sure. I would love for her to come to TNA.
Well, in TNA, it is pretty amazing. I think, and I'm a huge fan of WWE, and I'm critical of WWE, and I'm a fan. I'm not as big a fan of TNA, but there's certain things I love of TNA, and most specifically is what they do with women.
Yeah.
That's really, I really hate how little time women get in WWE. I hate how little meaning the storylines have in WWE when it comes to women. Like women and knockouts in TNA actually have storylines that matter and make an impact, and then you guys have matches where the payoff's good, where you have time to have a match.
Yes, that's the part that's why everyone kind of, when fans say to me, "Are you going to go back to WWE?" and I just think, I'm just me specifically. I'm just made more for TNA. It's the way that the women are treated, and the time for the matches, and that's what I enjoy. I'm so much happier here in TNA, and it was amazing to go from WWE to TNA because I almost died in my first month, wrestling in TNA because the time that we're given. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it there,
Right, because you were used to doing 6 minutes, and then
6 minutes, like 3 minutes, things.
No, or what about a nice 7 or 8 minute bikini contest?
Oh.
or musical chairs?
I've never had to do a bikini contest.
You didn't ever do that?
I've done
What's the
bra
worst
and
thing you ever did?
I've done a lot
You did bra and panties matches?
But the worst thing I ever did probably was we did some dance off, and, being a baby face as a,
and you were a baby face in the dance off? That's actually worse.
That's worse.
Because as a heel, you could do anything.
So I have no rhythm. So it was... Yeah, that was pretty bad.
So you can't dance,
right?
But you're a babyface. The crowd wants to cheer for you, but you have to do something.
Yeah.
See, it's way better as a heel because you can just be terrible.
Exactly.
And they'll boo you.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy being a heel more than a babyface?
It's fun. Yeah, it's character-wise, it's more fun. I could go either way, wrestling-wise. I've asked people, what do you prefer me as? And I get 50-50. But when I'm a heel, people say heel. And when I'm a babyface, they say babyface. So I like both.
Well, your arsenal of moves lends itself more to being a babyface, right? Because high flying stuff that makes the crowd go ooh is kind of inherently a baby face-ish way to be.
But I try to scale that back when I'm a heel, and I just kind of go more submissions and more technical when I'm a heel. And then once I become a baby face again, I'll switch it up. So
how much when you have like a good submission, like for example, you're on the ring post, figure four.
Yeah.
Like how much is that? I remember hitting you up once and like complaining that I didn't think the person you were doing it with handled it right. I don't remember what they did, but they like readjusted. They did something I didn't like. I didn't understand. I was just being nerdy and picky. Okay. How much does that stuff require out of the person you're wrestling with? Because no matter how much I am a smart wrestling fan, I still don't fully understand necessarily what's being required of the person you're working with.
With that kind of move,
very little?
Very little, and they just have to be able to take it, which most of them do. No one's going to say no. I mean, if they do, then it's not looked upon very, positively. But I've never had any problems with
what stuff. Is there anything? What stuff do you do that requires the most from your opponents?
Oh wow, it's anything where they have to help support me, and base me, but. As a heel, that generally doesn't really happen. So I'm normally the base, and they have to be able to take it physically, and because I, like I said, like to be very physical in the ring. So, but everyone knows that that's the way I am. And
so, are you just like an animal though? Like I don't ever see you get hurt. I've seen you take.
I'm an animal.
I've seen you take bumps though that would like really be painful.
Yeah,
and you don't show anything
you
at all.
Don't think about it. You don't think about it. You don't go through it before the match happens, and you just think, okay, can I picture myself doing this, and am I willing to do it? And almost all the time it's yes.
Well, with you it is always yes,
but there's been times where we have talked about stuff and it never happened.
What was something that was so crazy that at one you thought it was possible, and at one point you're like, you know what, this is not a bump I'm willing to take. This is not the move.
Taryn and I had a ladder match in Las Vegas, and we had talked about giving her a Frankensteiner off the top of the ladder. So she would be sitting, straddling on the ladder, and I was going to climb up the side and just go and give her a Frankensteiner. And so she never said no. I mean, she would have done it. The ladders were it was our first time having a ladder match. Well, I had had one in the past, but with smaller ladders, so it was a little bit different. And when we were up there, it was kind of shaky. And so we're just like, you know what? Let's just be safe. And, we're doing so many other things. Let's just scale it back.
Don't need it.
We didn't need it. So, the risk factor, we just felt like it outweighed the actual move. Yeah.
In terms of those moves, like the high flying stuff, who do you admire the most?
Rey Mysterio, obviously. He's amazing. I watched I love Eddie Guerrero because he had the whole package. Technical, high-flying, charisma, amazing. There's so many people. AJ Styles is amazing. He makes everything look so easy. He helped us girls a lot. He has a great mind for the business.
You think there's any chance he pops up in WWE or no?
I hope he comes back to us. I mean, that's what I want. I'd be really sad if he didn't come back. And everyone's kind of like, Gail, he's gone. And I can't accept it right now. So we'll see.
I wouldn't accept it because I mean, if I were you, I don't think. I mean, I know nothing, but I think there's a good chance he doesn't end up. WWE, like they have such a bias against someone who hasn't been there ever,
and he has TNA.
He's written all over him. So they're not into that particularly. And then size-wise, he's a weird fit for them. They don't. Yeah. He's not tiny. He's not big.
Right. He's he looks great.
He's awesome.
I think that he could win over the fans, though, because the fans love him. So that's the one thing I think that he has on his side.
He's phenomenal, and he's amazing.
Phenomenal.
I mean, I would be so, no pun intended, phenomenal. I would be super psyched if he showed up. My favorite thing that AJ...
I wouldn't be.
I know. Here's my thing about TNA and WWE and why I always say that.
Yeah.
When there are people who I love in TNA, I enjoy them at TNA. But if I've never seen them on the biggest stage, it's not about the quality of products. I think the quality of wrestling you're going to see is obviously at least as good in TNA.
Yes.
But I do get excited to see how would they do in front of 20, 50,000.
I'd be curious, but I think...
Well, then also, he's just worked through that talent pool a lot. So it's interesting to be like, well, let's throw him into a whole new batch of talent and see what happens. Because he's never left before.
You're right.
But I think there's a good chance that's not what happens. I think he goes around and makes a ton of money on the indie circuit.
I could see that.
And then just
he's
comes
working
back.
In Japan,
and does his Japan run. And then
I just hope he comes back, though. I really do.
What about my all-time favorite, Macho Man?
Macho Man should be in the Hall of Fame.
He will be.
I mean, I hope soon, and Elizabeth. I mean, people who watch wrestling back then, I mean, Macho Man and Elizabeth, that was the couple, and so incredible. I loved him.
Like, he, to me, his window of perfection wasn't huge, because afterwards there was some rough stuff. Yeah. Like when he started wearing, like, covering his chest and wearing crazy colors.
I didn't watch
and then
that. Yeah.
But his epic run from his debut through the Warrior match, basically, he was perfect.
Incredible.
In the ring, on the mic, his character, his personality, every kind of working you could do. Big guys, small guys, good guy, bad guy.
Incredible.
Anything.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet him at all at TNA?
I didn't. You
guys missed each other?
I never met him. He's one of the few that I've never met. And I'm sad about it. There's some. I started meeting wrestlers as I started wrestling, and sometimes people would disappoint me because they had whatever drug issues or what kind of state they were in. But for the most part, I wasn't always disappointed. There's some great people. Tito Santana, I loved him as a kid, and I got to meet him. So nice. Brett, so nice. I mean, Roddy Piper, awesome. But that was one person I really wanted to meet, and Elizabeth as well. So it's just sad that you can't meet the people that you grew up watching. But I've met a lot of people. So
I'm sure you have.
Really fortunate.
How was your experience with Hulkamania and Ric Flair in TNA?
Oh, awesome, Ric Flair.
I mean, the Nate is the Nate.
Yeah, he is. He really is. And I worked with him in WWE and TNA. He loves to party. I don't know if he still does, but
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm guessing it'll never end. Amazing guy who's always so positive and so funny to watch. No matter how many times he did the same stuff over and over again, just the way he delivered it, and it was incredible.
And if you're someone who for some reason hasn't spent a lot of time with TNA, if you don't watch the run where Ric Flair was in a wheelchair in TNA, it is one of the funniest things he's ever done in his career. He would get all angry and roll all fast in his wheelchair.
So funny. He is so funny.
And Hogan,
in real life and on TV.
And what about Hogan, who often gets a bum rap in the business?
I've never had anything but positive experiences with him. I only worked with him in this last run, so I understand where everybody was coming from when he came in, but I wasn't there when he came in, and I heard that he had a good talk with everyone and just to bring it up to a positive level, and he was nothing but encouraging when we were there of the girls. I never had any bad experiences.
How about your relationship with Vince McMahon?
I never really had one, There was a couple of times when things weren't going on, and I would say to the writers or whoever it was, "Oh, can I go talk to Vince?" And it was almost like a test to see how long you could wait outside of his office or how hard you tried to go talk to him. And I never really got.
You never got much time with him?
No.
What about Stephanie?
No, here and there. She was always very professional and kind. I liked her a lot. I liked talking with Hunter. He was very helpful. Just gave me advice when I needed it. But I talked mostly with Johnny if I had
Johnny Ace.
And when I was frustrated or, wanted to know what was going on and why I wasn't getting opportunities or but they never give you they never gave me straight answers. So, by the end I was just fed up. And
who were the girls you were closest to?
Fox. In this last run, Natty, I got along with everyone pretty much.
Did you help out would you volunteer to help out younger girls in your second run?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely if they asked me, and I would get in the ring. And it was just hard because as a woman there, it was kind of almost an accepted role, or you knew that it wasn't going to go, to a serious level where I wanted it to go, because they just didn't want the women to wrestle. They always wanted us to scale back, and it was so frustrating for me because I'm, like I said, very physical, and I was the opposite of what they wanted, and also looks wise, people can say to me today, "Oh, but you are like a hot chick or whatever." But there, I wasn't treated like that, So it's,
you don't feel like you were treated like you were one of the beautiful women there.
Yes, and they were very, very transparent about showing what they thought.
In what ways? And by what they would ask people to do?
But it was so strange because I was also one of the girls that was always included in those gimmick matches, like when ZZ Top was the guest host and we had a legs match, and or every swimwear gimmick match that you think one of the hot chicks would be included in, I'd be included in. But when it came to, say, being in a rehearsal for a lumberjill match or something, and they positioned the girl specifically to where they wanted the camera to go. And if there were girls that they felt like weren't the pretty ones, they moved them to the side. And that was, it was a pretty clear message.
So do you feel that they used you in those gimmick matches to fill an imaginary quota?
I don't know. I was always confused, and when we were on house shows, they would always book girls for the wrestling match, and then they'd have a host to ask trivia questions and throw out T-shirts. And I did the hosting a lot, and all the guys in the back would be like, "Why are you hosting? Why aren't you wrestling?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just happy to be booked." And it was just very strange. Fans were confused. I'm confused. I was always confused.
Well, I will say this, as the thing I said earlier about how when they're wrestlers in TNA or ROH or wherever, I kind of like fantasy book them in WWE. Yeah. I no longer do that with you because I've already known what they would do with you. Yeah. So to me now, at this point, it would just be a waste of time.
It's pretty clear because I've worked there twice, and I've worked in TNA twice, and it's
in TNA you are treated as one of the great female workers of all time.
Yes,
as you should be. Yes. And in WWE, you're treated as sort of just someone who's there,
a filler.
Yeah, you're a filler. You were never. And you only held the title that one time?
Yes.
They never gave it back to you after that. You never got to have a match where you earned the title and had like some meaningful feud or something.
I had title matches, but never won the title or anything.
And I just never understood it. Because even in the limited role, like when I was first getting into wrestling and didn't know how good you were, I remember you standing out, like things you would do in the ring. I'm like, whoa, that was really sweet.
Yeah.
And they're like, but she just lost, or she's gone, or why doesn't anyone, nothing's happening with this person.
This last run, I didn't even lose that much, to be honest. I was kind of just there. It was just...
All right, so you take us through the last moments in WWE.
Oh, yeah.
When you bailed out of a battle royal.
Yeah.
What was this? It was a regular Raw.
It caused such a commotion after that with fans because some fans were like, "Yeah, F them," and then the other fans were, "Oh, she's so unprofessional.
Be a professional."
Yeah.
So tell the story. Tell the story.
I don't regret 1 second. I'm going to be honest, and this is what happened. I had already planned to quit for a little while, and I'd kind of gone. Actually, I'd planned to quit originally. You're getting the first dibs on all these stories. I'd planned to quit originally the day that the storyline with me and Daniel Bryan had started with the twins, and they caught us making out and all that stuff. And I walked into work that day, and I talked to my husband. He wasn't my husband at the time, but I said, "I'm ready to quit. Like, I'm so done." And then all of a sudden, they had the storyline for me, which was...
Of course, as you're walking out the door.
Yeah, I'm thinking, why is this happening, And then so we went with the flow, and that kind of gave me another...
And what was it? Remind us of what the storyline was. It was supposed to be you and Daniel Bryan.
The twins were fighting over Daniel Bryan, And apparently what I had heard was the network needed the storyline to change because I have no idea why. Who knows? So they decided to have this change of story where he had a secret girlfriend. And he had pitched certain people, and anyways, I was the third choice. Right?
How do you know? How do you find out that?
He told me.
Brian did.
Yeah, because he wanted to bring in Sarah Del Rey, which is his friend. And,
Okay.
And Kong was one of this.
Well, because he's so committed to anything awesome in wrestling related.
Yeah.
So you weren't offended from his perspective?
No, not at all. We're friends. Yeah, we were friends at the time. And so I was like, okay. And they went with me because I was already part of the roster.
So let me get this straight. You did beat out a woman who wasn't on the roster and another woman who is not known. I mean, Kong's an amazing wrestler, but not known as a love interest type wrestler, realistically.
Yes.
As they would see it.
I mean, who knows if any of this is true, but that's what this is my version, because this is what I heard. So we did that storyline, and then that probably lasted 2 months, and we had this great cat fight backstage with the girls, the twins. It was incredible. Like, Nicole took me and flung me against the wall. There was a hole in the wall. My head hit the wall.
Oh my God, you must have been thrilled.
Yeah.
You love it. Did you tell them?
Everyone's like, "Oh my God, Gail, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine."
Is that a situation where you tell them, like, throw me hard?
No, it just happened.
They just did it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's
great. So great. And then they loved it so much. We did another 2 or 3 cat fights on pay-per-view, in the ring, whatever happened. And then eventually it was like I just got phased out for no reason, right?
Again,
yeah. So that's when I became really frustrated. Talked to Johnny, and I said a lot of things. I said, I don't understand what's going on. You always talk about perception, and I'll tell you what my perception is. I was in this storyline, and all of a sudden I got phased out, and someone else took my role. And okay, I said, is it because I'm Asian? Is it because I brought up everything. I just didn't understand. And of course, I never got any straight answers. And he said, no. It's, we love girls of all ethnicities. And then he proceeded on. He's like, what can we do? Would you be interested in training the girls down in FCW? And I said, no, I'm not interested in doing that right now. And then eventually, like a few months later, it came to that day, and I was so frustrated by that point. I was done. And
so they say there's a battle royal on Raw tonight.
Yeah.
Divas Battle Royal.
Maurice was supposed to eliminate me that night, and she had some kind of knee injury or something like that. I can't remember clearly. And so we changed they said, okay, Gail, Maurice is out. So whoever, they left it up to us, and they trusted me because I was a little bit more experienced. Me, Beth, and Natty, they were just kind of like, okay.
Figure out the battle royal.
So then I said, okay.
And then?
And then I hit Fox in it, and I said, just sell. And I rolled. I was done.
So you just rolled out?
I just rolled out. I hit her, and then I said sell, and then I rolled out.
So as she sold, you rolled.
If my role in that battle royal would have affected the finish, I wouldn't have done that. I'm not that unprofessional. But because I knew it meant nothing, I said, I'm out of here. And
did anyone notice at the time? Did fans notice? Did you hear anything?
JR, they said JR mentioned it in commentary. He seemed a little bit confused. 1 or 2 wrestlers in the back, but the agents didn't notice. Nobody noticed. It just.
So when you got back to the back, it wasn't even a big deal.
Oh no, not at all.
It was just on Twitter that people probably started saying things.
Yeah. But I told Johnny that night when I quit, I said, you guys don't even care about the women, I rolled out of the Battle Royal and nobody even noticed. They're like, who cares? And he laughed. And he was like, oh, you did? Kind of thing. And so,
listen, I really hope that they figure it out. And I always look, I try to be positive because I love wrestling so much. So I hope that things like Total Divas, the show, makes the division more important. Yeah. I will say it's given some certain girls opportunities to showcase themselves more.
Natty, because she's always been very, even when I was there, always working hard and plugging away and trying to be, showing that she wanted to be used, and this is a great opportunity for her, and it's great for the girls. It gives them the platform.
Yeah, and I've noticed, it's funny, I said from like halfway through the Divas show, the Bellas started to improve in the ring a lot and started to seem to really put more pride into what they were doing with wrestling. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's interesting.
And I think
people are going to
John and Daniel.
Well, you can see that in them too.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Oh yeah. No. Okay. It's funny. Brie does very Daniel-like stuff. Yeah. And Nikki's more like Cena, bigger, stronger stuff. Yeah. But you see more of a sense of pride in what they're doing in the ring because they're being made to feel more important generally, not just as eye candy.
I think that's a big part because, I mean, look at me in TNA. You're appreciated. The women are appreciated a lot more, and that makes you want to work harder. That makes you want to be, at the same level as the guys. Being appreciated goes a long way, and that's why I think I've done so well in TNA and Impact because I'm appreciated.
Did you ever get a sense that Brooke Hogan was interested in wrestling?
She had talked about it, but I think that once she tried it,
didn't feel right?
Yeah, I don't think it worked out for her.
Bummer. All I think is like, with the right training, couldn't she just instantly become one of the biggest?
I'd be afraid to be in the ring with her though, because I wouldn't want to hurt her. And because when people are not as experienced, I feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be as aggressive as I normally would be, and I don't like to hold back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And she had never done real training.
No, I mean, I think she had gone to a wrestling school and trained a little bit, but I'd heard her talk about it once, and that was it.
Right, but it wasn't like a big thing.
Right.
Oh, so what matches are out there for you before it's all said and done? First of all, you don't have any. Do you have any plan on when you would not want to be wrestling anymore?
When my body doesn't hold up anymore, or when I want to go out on top, so I don't want to be like, oh, Gail's looking like she's getting a little slow in the ring, and I'm 36 now, so I think like I'm still keeping up and moving just as fast as a 25-year-old.
And you 100%. And you have stepchildren, so you're not looking to have children yourself. No. So your body, you don't have to worry about that part of it. So you can get every bit of mileage out of your body that's possible.
It really is on how my body holds up. And with Impact, though, we're very physical. So
what matches are out there that you'd want to have?
Well, everybody wants to see the rubber match with me and Taryn. So I'm sure that's going to happen when she comes back. And she is going to come back because, I mean, she's talking about coming back right now. She's got abs on top of her pregnant belly right now.
How pregnant is she?
She's, I think, like 6 months or something like that.
All right, so that's not too far
and
off.
Madison Rain had a baby and 10 weeks later came back. I mean, she looks incredible.
She got in crazy shape, that one.
Yeah, she did. And now we're working together, and she has been very physical, and she's been amazing.
Anyone else out there that you'd really, even if fantasy booking like that, even if they're not with the company
fantasy
right now,
booking?
Sure, that you'd really want to get to work with.
I want Fox to come to Impact Wrestling.
I think
she would fit in great with us. I think she would be utilized. And I haven't wrestled her for years, so I think people loved our matches back then. I think that we would kick butt. And Natty, of course. She's incredible.
Where do you put yourself among the workers of all time?
Oh, workers of all time.
Let's go. And I even though I think you're great regardless of sex, it's easier to break it down. Like you don't want to put yourself in a conversation where you're like, well, Macho Man, that's it's complicated.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't even put myself in that.
So like with the women, where would you put yourself?
Oh, it's hard to say because the women that have made a mark in this business have all been with WWE. So and that's the monster. So it's hard to say. I would say that I've had my moments like Trish has had and Lita has had, but they've had it on a much bigger scale because WWE. But
so you're thinking about you're putting in greatness, and greatness is often defined by big moments and perception. But what I'm talking about with you more specifically is the way you work.
Oh, the way I work.
And and you know that you could. There's no one that you couldn't.
I think I'm definitely the nerdiest when it comes to
the way you handle work.
With the way I handle work. The night before our last Knockout Standing match with Taryn, it was getting to be, we had gone out for dinner like at 7 or something, and it was maybe 9 o'clock, and I'm like, guys, I need to get sleep tomorrow. It's a big night tomorrow. And I prepare myself for big matches. I'm thinking about them like a week before. I know people are going to make fun of me that I work with.
But that's what a lot of the greats did. I mean, that's what people said about Savage too.
Oh, okay.
That he worked out. A lot of people will try to discredit Savage Steamboat because he like made them get together and work out the entire match and like wanted that match to be perfect.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there are other nerds out there.
So I'm a nerd, yeah. So I guess if that's the characteristic.
Did you and Trish ever get to have a meaningful match?
No, I mean we've had some good matches, but like I said, I was so green. I would love to have her in her prime and me in my prime.
Because you were green when she was there.
Yeah.
When you were there, she was.
But I think in our prime
would have been awesome. Lita. What about Lita? Same thing.
The same thing.
You worked with her,
but had some good matches though. I feel like they were catching me just as I was starting to get on a roll, and early, just when I was finding my technical, side. And it's too bad that those two times couldn't combine, because I feel like there's so many people I could have worked with at her prime. Could have been incredible. Just like Beth, and I've asked her, please come out of retirement. We'd love to, have you, and just to have that greatness and to be given the platform and given the time, and Impact Wrestling would do that. I mean, it makes me.
I know, it'd be pretty sweet
to see that. It would be sweet for the fans.
Would you have been excited to see if Kong had really gotten her moment in WWE, what that would have looked like?
Yes.
It looked like it was going to be cool.
Can I tell you a quick story about that? She had come in and they were planning, and they'd known that we had worked together, and they kept on saying, we want you to be her first match. And for me, I knew first match meant squash match, right?
Of course. She was squashing everyone.
Yeah. So she'd come out and she'd be killing everybody. She hadn't gotten to me. We had a house show loop. It was her first house show loop. And they said, okay, and at the end, she's going to come out and she's going to lay out you and Eve. And I thought, oh, it started, and I just felt like they're going to ruin everything her and I had ever done. And they kept on pushing off that singles match on TV. And then finally they said, okay, it's going to happen. And she got to that house show match. They said she was going to lay us out. And then all of a sudden, right before the show starts, she had to go home. And I said, oh, what's going on? She left. She came to pay-per-view. It was in Seattle. I remember that. And she sat me aside and she's like, I have to tell you something. And the next day was supposed to be our match. And she said, I'm pregnant. And I said, what? Oh, my God. Oh, congratulations. And in my head, I was thinking, congratulations. But part of me was relieved because I felt like there was divine intervention to save our history. And I was like, thank you, Lord, for making this happen.
So you didn't have to have the squash match.
Yeah, I felt like that would have ruined everything. I really did.
Hey, I could talk to you. I could talk to you forever. But you can see Gail Kim every Thursday night.
I have something for you.
You do? Oh, hold on. A gift. This has never happened.
This is a cheap plug, but I think you'll really like it, though.
Is it a gift and a cheap plug?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, as long as
my husband's protein bars.
I love protein bars.
Yeah. So I brought you one of each flavor.
Ooh.
Cookies and cream and peanut butter fit crunch bars.
I will have one of these right now.
They're at GNC's and they're going to be expanding in June. I mean, they're doing really well, but you got to eat them. They're amazing.
Robert Irvine's, Fortifix?
Yeah, Fortifix fit crunch bars.
Sweet. I'm in. I might have to ask you for a box.
Yes. We'll send you a box.
All right. You can catch Gail Kim every Thursday night on Impact on Spike. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.